Vadamudan, be blessed by the divine. All right, so we are live on YouTube. Wonderful. Very happy to be there. Dr. Chataneshwar, thank you so much for joining us in this evening session. Today, we are going to listen to you on how to cook a weight loss diet at home. So I'm assuming that you're going to be giving us some wonderful expert tips on how to cook a weight loss diet for an Indian home. So let's focus on some of those Indian dishes that people love to cook, and also make sure that the food that they cook is going to help them achieve optimal weight. Is that the right thing to say? Say optimal weight is the correct phrase?
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me here. It's lovely to be here with you all. Optimal weight is the right phrase to say. Being underweight is bad, being overweight is bad, being in your optimal weight is good. That's what we want to achieve. The good news is this is easy to do. It's simple to do. May not be easy, but it's simple to do. And I'm here to share some secrets, some tips, and some science about how you can cook a weight loss meal at home for yourself and your families in India.
So first, let me ask you a simple question. I remember about 40 years, 50 years ago, in say a city like Chennai or in Bangalore, people were not this overweight. There some people are today overweight, some people are obese, some people are over obese. I don't know what is the term for over obese. It looks like they put on some 2-3 tires around their hip region. This wasn't the case about 40-50 years ago. So what went wrong? What's going wrong now?
Yeah, the rates of obesity are skyrocketing in India. We've had more people who are obese today than we have ever had in the past. In fact, if you go and look at how healthy we were when we gained independence, 1947, the diseases like obesity, diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, these were almost non-existent. They were not there at all in the country, in the whole of India. There were very few people who had these diseases. They were from the richer class who had access to plenty of animal foods, processed foods, unhealthy foods as much as they wanted. Their diets were not as healthy as they could have been, and they suffered from these diseases. But the common man, the majority of our country, did not have these diseases at all. Today, the problem is whether you're rich or poor, the foods that you're choosing are processed, and a lot of them are animal based, and those foods cause an increase in weight. Those foods raise blood sugar levels, blood pressure levels, and even cause diseases like heart disease and cancer. Our food pattern, although the dishes seem to be the same, we are still eating idli sambar and bisi bele bhat and dal chawal, the actual ingredients that go into those dishes have completely changed over the last 70 years.
I see. So you're talking about processed food and animal foods, the two sections of the food that are making us gain weight. Can you help us define what is processed food? We understand animal foods. You're talking about fish, egg, meat, etc. What is processed food?
Yeah. So animal foods are meat, fish, eggs, and dairy products, all milk and milk products. Processed foods, the definition of a processed food when it comes to health is any food from which something good has been removed or something bad has been added. Very simple, very straightforward, right? For example,
give us examples. Yes.
For example, if you take a handful of groundnuts, that's a whole food. It's just the way it's found in nature. You open a pod, there's a groundnut inside. If you eat that groundnut, whether you mildly roast it, you boil it, you grind it, you powder it, make a paste, as long as you're eating the whole thing, that's a whole food. But The minute you squeeze it and remove the fiber with nutrients out, you're left with only the fat content. You're left with only the oil. So 100 grams of groundnuts has about 40, 50 grams of oil in it, depending on the variety. So half the groundnuts is oil. The other half is all of its nutrition. So you remove most of the nutrition from the groundnut. You're left with oil. Since you removed something good from the groundnuts, the groundnut oil becomes a processed food. Same thing with coconut oil, with sunflower oil, any vegetable oils. The same thing with white rice. When you remove the bran from rice, whether it's brown, black, or red, when you remove the bran, you're left with white rice. When you remove the bran from wheat, you get maida. When you remove the fiber and nutrients from sugarcane, you get sugar, you get jaggery. All of these are processed foods because you've removed something good from them. And if you make a dish at home, let's say you make a spinach curry or a carrot sabji or a pumpkin palya, you put 1 spoon of oil into that palya, by definition, that dish has become a processed food because you added something bad to it. And by this definition, pretty much everything we cook at home is a processed food, but also everything you cook at home can easily be converted to a whole food just by changing that 1 spoon of oil you put in the tadka. That's all it takes.
All right, let's jump right into the core topic of today's discussion or today's discourse by you, weight loss. Do you believe that food can actually help us lose weight?
Absolutely. In fact, it's the only thing that can have significant and lasting effects on weight loss and reaching your ideal weight while also reaching your ideal health. That's the key thing. So, when you talk about food and weight loss, most people hear in their mind calories. The more calories I eat, the more I'm going to weigh. So, I have to restrict my calories. I need to eat less calories in order to lose weight. Now, technically, in a lab, this is true. You eat a food with, you have more calories, you gain weight, less calories, you lose weight. But in real life, that's not the whole truth. It's just one formula. There are so many other factors. The most important thing to remember when it comes to weight loss is calorie density, not the number of calories, but calorie density. Let me explain what calorie density means. Calorie density is how many calories are there in this cup of food or 1 spoon of food or one mouthful of food. The more calories that are there in that cup of food, the more weight you're going to gain. The
For
less
instance,
calories,
ice cream.
yes, sure. 1 cup of ice cream, 1 cup of gulab jamun, one samosa, any of these has about 300 calories. Okay. And if you eat that 1 cup of gulab jamun, you're not going to feel full. In fact, you're going to feel more hungry. You want to eat 2 more, right? But if you want to get the same number of calories from a whole plant food, for example, a watermelon, delicious sweet fruit, you need to eat a whopping 1 kg of watermelon just to get that 300 calories. That 1 kg is going to be so filling, you may not even be able to finish it. That's the range.
No way anyone can finish 1 kilogram of watermelon. A normal human being cannot finish 1 kilogram of watermelon. It at a stretch, maybe over a period of day one could, but definitely not in one sitting.
Yeah,
that's right.
and that's the difference. It's about, so most people, the average human stomach has a capacity of 4 cups of food or about 1 liter of food. You eat one liter of food, you drink 1 kg of a beverage, you'll feel full, right? But how many calories does that 1 kg of food have? That decides whether you gain weight or lose weight or maintain the same weight. Right? For example, so we did the gulab jamun and the watermelon. Another example that most people do at home, 1 plate full of vegetables. I'm not talking about 1 cup of vegetables, but one full dinner plate full of vegetables, whether it's a salad or a poriyal or sabji, has the same number of calories as 2 tablespoons of oil.
Wow, is that right?
Yes, right.
That's
So
shocking.
Exactly. So if you eat something that's fried, like something that has those 2 tablespoons of oil, you, as compared to eating a plate full of vegetables, you'll end up with the same number of calories, but the oil is not going to fill you up. It's going to make you hungrier to eat more. The vegetables are going to make you feel full, satiated, happy, and healthy.
Okay, so you have done quite a bit of research on and also experience of treating thousands of patients to lose weight. What, how do you guide when somebody comes with obesity problem? How do you guide them to cook for weight loss at home?
Sure. So there are two things to keep in mind when someone is trying to lose weight. And both of them have to do with the purpose. Why do you want to lose weight in the first place, right? One is because you want to look better, you want to feel better, and that's great. That's a wonderful incentive. The second is the more body weight you have, the higher than normal, you're going to have an increased risk of diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, and even lifestyle related cancers. We do not want these diseases, and we can prevent them to a great extent if we reach our ideal weight and our ideal health with healthy foods. So how do we do that at home? The first step is understanding calorie density and getting it to work in your favor. So, what are these foods? What are the least calorie dense foods that we can increase in our diet? And what are the most calorie dense foods which we can reduce in our diet? Let's talk about both of these. Right? Now, animal foods and processed foods in the entire food spectrum are the most calorie dense foods and the least antioxidant dense foods. This means the more you eat of processed foods and animal foods, the more calories your body will get. So the more you'll need to store up, and the less antioxidants you'll get. That means the less healthy you become. So when we avoid those and when we move towards a whole food, plant-based diet or Sampurna Sasyahara, Sampurnahara, Sasyahara, your calorie density reduces, your antioxidant density increases, right? So what are the whole plant foods that are the least calorie dense, which we need to maximize when we're looking for weight loss? Fruits and vegetables. As simple as that. The least controversial statement in all of nutrition is that fruits and vegetables are good for you. Everyone is going to agree with this. So start there. The first step that we like to start with is not about getting rid of oil or stopping tea or coffee or avoiding ordering food from outside or eating out. Those are the tough ones. Forget about them, do them later. Start with the easiest first step, right? Which is increasing your intake of fruits and vegetables. How difficult is it to eat 3 bananas a day? Difficult? No, that's easy, that's simple. Buy a bunch of bananas, eat 3 a day, and you're done. Like, how difficult is it to eat vegetables at every meal? Sure, you'll need to buy them, you'll need to have them, chop them, and cook them. But that's about it. It's quite straightforward. It's not complicated. It's not rocket science. It's not something that's come from another country or another planet. These are things that we already do every day. We just need to do more of it, right? So increase your intake of fruits and vegetables. And how do we do that best? What is the best way to do that? Well, we recommend starting every meal with fruits and with vegetables in that order. So if you look at
So when you
it,
talk about vegetables, what vegetable is it? You're talking about salads?
sure, all vegetable dishes, salads, poriyal, palya, sabjis, gravies, including vegetables in your cereal dishes like
So you're
vegetable
talking
rice.
about eating them raw?
It doesn't matter. That's the best part. You can eat it raw, you can steam it, boil it, grill it, bake it, roast it. All that matters is that
But
you're
not
eating
fry
it.
it.
Exactly.
Don't fry your vegetables, but you can cook it in any other way that you like.
Absolutely.
All right.
And
Now, amongst those various types of cooking of vegetables, which is the most healthy way of eating? Is it raw, eating them raw? Some vegetables you really can't eat them raw. A yam, for instance, you can't, potato, you can't eat them raw. So you need to cook them. So which is the best way, the healthiest way for weight loss to cook vegetables?
Sure. So interestingly, there are some vegetables that are healthier raw. There are other vegetables that are healthier cooked. For example, capsicum is a vegetable that's healthier raw. When you cook capsicum, you lose about 70% of its antioxidants. You're still left with 30%. So maybe
So
you
even
need
if you boil
to,
them.
yes, even if you boil them,
Uh-huh.
right? It's still healthy to eat. It's just healthier when it's raw. But carrots and tomatoes, on the other hand, are much healthier when you cook them because their bioavailability of nutrients improves. You're able to absorb more nutrition from them when you cook them. So, carrots and tomatoes are healthier cooked. But generally speaking, the healthiest way to eat a specific vegetable is the way you enjoy eating it simply because you're going to eat more of it.
Well, if you ask me, I will say lady's finger, the most enjoyable way of eating, at least till about 5 years ago, was to fry it, deep fry it and make sure that it is black and then, raw and crispy and eat them. But you just knocked it off.
Yeah. I know it can seem impossible. Like, how can we even cook lady's finger without oil?
That's right.
But
How do you cook lady's finger without oil?
there's a trick to doing it. So there are two ways you can do it. One is if you don't mind it being gooey, just boil it, put it in your summer. It's going to be gooey, it's going to be great. The other way to do it, if you don't want it to be gooey, if you want it to be dry, then you add something sour to it, like tomatoes or lemon juice or amchur powder, kokum, anything sour, and that gooey texture of bindi or okra or lady's finger that instantly reduces. And no one at home would even know you've avoided oil because it looks and tastes exactly the
So
same.
you just put the cut lady's finger and you put a few tomatoes, cut tomatoes, and then just boil them together, is
That's
it?
cooking. That's it. Avoid
Ah.
adding water. Don't close the vessel. Let the steam evaporate. And don't add extra water to it. That'll make it more gooey. Just chop your bindi, chop your tomatoes, put it all together in a vessel, switch it on. Don't stir it too much. Just leave it alone. Just keep an eye to make sure it doesn't burn. That's it. It gets cooked beautifully and it's not gooey.
So once in a few seconds or a minute, just toss it over to make sure that one side is not burnt and all sides are cooked. That's it, correct?
Sure,
Stir it.
absolutely. That's it. And
I
you
see.
may need to stir it 2 or 3 times over 15 minutes. That's it. You don't
So
need to
how do
keep
you cook
stirring it.
potatoes without oil?
Sure. So any vegetable, if you want it to be crunchy on the outside and soft on the inside, like your fried potatoes, you bake it in an oven instead of cooking it on the stove, right? So you can chop your potatoes into squares, into cubes, into big pieces, whatever you like, and mix it with your spices, with your turmeric powder, coriander powder, chili powder, some pepper if you like, some ginger garlic paste if you like, right? And lay it out on a tray, put it in the oven and bake it. You can close it and bake it, it tastes a lot better. Or you can boil it first, make it soft, and then put it in the oven and bake it. That way it stays soft inside, becomes crispy outside. There are so many amazing ways to cook vegetables, so many ways that we may never have tried before because we're all so used to take a vessel, put 2 spoons of oil, put the vegetable and cook it. That's all most of us have ever done. But when you start discovering steaming, boiling, roasting your onions in the pan without using oil, just with a few spoons of water or a few spoons of vinegar, you can cook onions the same way. You can roast them nicely. They won't turn too brown, but that's a good thing. When you avoid browning of any foods, you're reducing the formation of carcinogenic chemicals in that food. They're called AGEs.
Wait. You have introduced a new term, carcinogenic chemicals. What do you mean by that?
So AGEs, or advanced glycation end products, those are the chemicals that turn your food brown when you roast it. So when you roast tomatoes, for example, it turns brown. The brown color is because AGEs got formed and AGEs are brown in color. That's what you're seeing. The problem is AGEs promote aging and promote cancer progression. So the more brown food you consume, that much higher your risk of cancer is going to go, especially if the food is an animal food, especially if it's meat or eggs or something that has ghee or butter in it, it's going to go that much higher. When you brown vegetables, it's not as much, but the risk is still there. So the less browning that happens to food, the safer it is to eat.
So papad is out of the question. You can't fry papad.
Sure, but you can roast them. Make sure that you don't brown or burn them, and they'll be amazing. The other problem with papads is that they are heavy on salt. So try to get a papad that's either salt-free or low salt, or make your own at home, and you can eat as much as you like.
So papads can also make you put on weight, is it?
So a couple of things. One is papads are usually made with a dal or a grain base or a vegetable, and they have a little bit of oil, they have some salt, they have some soda, and that's about it. Those are the ingredients of a papad apart from the masalas. And the other thing is that there is such a small quantity of the papad that it's not going to contribute heavily to weight gain.
Sure. I mean, you're not going to eat 1 kg of papad for a meal.
Exactly.
Some people may be tempted to eat them, but I don't think they would do that.
Exactly. But the problem is it's going to increase your sodium intake, and that's going to raise your blood pressure. And in turn, that's going to increase your risk of stomach cancer, kidney failures, and strokes, none of which we want to get.
So let's talk about another food that very popular, peanuts. Fried peanuts is one of the most popular snack in India. So you are saying that's not healthy.
If you fry the peanuts in oil, then yes, it's going to have that increased oil content. It is going to be quite brown, and that makes it unhealthy. But if you roast them
Sure.
on a stove or in an oven and keep the browning to a minimum, very light brown, and don't brown it much, then that's healthy to eat. You can even grind it, make it into peanut butter, and eat it. And research has shown, so scientists actually wanted to find out, will peanuts cause weight gain? And what about peanut butter? Because that's ground up so finely, you're going to absorb a lot of fat. So, what about peanut butter? So they tried it out, they tested it. They gave people peanuts and peanut butter to eat every day for a few months, and they found no weight gain. You did not
Oh,
gain weight when you ate peanuts, did not gain weight when you ate peanut butter, but you did gain weight when you consumed peanut oil. So that's the food we need to avoid.
okay. So you're saying oil is the #1 risk factor for obesity. Did I understand that right?
So oil is among the top risk factors.
So which is the #1?
You have the animal foods as well. You have dairy consumption, milk, curds, yogurt, ghee, butter, paneer, cream, cheese, etc. So most of these foods, simply because you're going to consume so much of it compared to oil, maybe a few spoons of oil a day, but you're going to be drinking a couple of glasses of milk, 1 cup of curds, 2 spoons of ghee, some butter on your bread. All of those contribute a lot to weight gain, apart from meat, fish, and egg consumption here in India.
Lovely. Those of you who have joined us a little late, we have Dr. Achyutaneshwar talking about how to cook weight loss diet at home, particularly Indian diet at home. So he's talking about various things related to what makes you gain weight, and he's naming animal food, and he's talked about milk and milk-based products as one of the top reasons why people put on weight. And that's a little strange. So I'm going to ask some questions regarding that on behalf of you. If you have any questions, feel free to comment on the Zoom session that you are joined today, or on the YouTube channel in which we have gone live. And there are quite a few people who are watching this program live on the YouTube channel. Feel free to comment on the YouTube channel. I'll be happy to read them out to Dr. Achyutaneshwar so that he could answer your question. So, Doctor, you mentioned that milk and milk-based products could potentially make people gain weight. This is against the popular belief, isn't it? India is one of the largest milk consuming country in the world, and you are saying that milk is one of the main reasons why people are putting on weight?
Yes, exactly. When you go back and trace 100 years back or 70 years back, 75 years back, you'll find that milk consumption in India was very, very low. And this was before the white revolution happened when practically everyone started drinking milk. But before that, and before the British came here, milk consumption was limited to you had a covered home for a family of 10 people, and you would take the cow's milk once in a couple of years for a few months' time, make some ghee from it, and the leftover buttermilk you distribute between the family members and consume if you were from a richer family, not if you were from a poorer family, which is what the majority of the country was. But today, the situation has completely changed. The British created dairies all over the country for their armies at that time. And when they left, the government took those dairies and promoted them, created more of them. And today, everyone drinks milk, everyone consumes dairy products. So, milk increases the milk is fiber free, doesn't have fiber. It is a source of cholesterol. It's a source of saturated fat. All of these are factors for increasing body weight.
Very, very eye-opening kind of an introduction you are giving us here. You talked about eating a lot of fruits and eating a lot of vegetables the way we enjoy eating, except that we must not fry it in oil. Now, continue in the same trail of thoughts. We eat fruits, we eat vegetables, and those can help us gain optimal weight or reach optimal weight and lose excess weight that we have in our body. What else can help us lose weight?
Sure. So these are number one and number two. Every meal you eat, start with a cup of fruits and have a cup of, a cup or two of vegetables.
So when you
Begin
say a
with
cup of fruits, how much, what do you mean? How many grams or what's the volume?
So research shows that if you eat up to 350 to 400 grams of fruits a day, the more you eat, the healthier you get. So, comparing two people, one person who eats no fruits daily, who doesn't eat fruits daily, the other person who eats 100 grams of fruits daily, one small banana, you have a 7 to 10% reduction in the risk of stroke and heart disease. You eat another 100 grams, that's another 7 to 10%. So every 100 grams, you get healthier and healthier and healthier until about 350, 400 grams. More than that, no matter how much you eat every day, you don't seem to have any additional benefits. Although there's no harm from it either. You can eat as much as you want without any issues. And scientists actually tried this out. They took people and they fed them 22 servings of fruits and 44 servings of vegetables every day. So one serving of fruit is one cup of fruit or one medium-sized fruit like an apple or a big banana, right? And one serving of vegetables is half a cup. So they fed them this huge amount of fruits and vegetables. And after some time, when they tested all their parameters, they found everything improved. The only side effect they could find was the biggest documented bowel movements in the history of modern medicine. So that's about it.
That's true. All right. So let's continue. So fruits, vegetables, what else can we eat to lose weight?
Sure. So a few specific things among vegetables. You have starchy vegetables and non-starchy vegetables. Starchy vegetables like potatoes, sweet potatoes, you have beetroot, you have yam, you have arbi or colocasia, queso-in-a-gedde. So these foods, these vegetables that are starchy are more calorie dense than the non-starchy vegetables. They're still healthy, they are not unhealthy. But if your goal is to lose weight, then focus more on the non-starchy vegetables. What are those? There are two very important categories, and everything else comes into the third. The first is green leafy vegetables. Except for fruits and spices, green leafy vegetables are the healthiest food on the planet. they have the maximum amount of nutrition per calorie, maximum amount of nutrition per gram per cup, and they are practically the healthiest things you can eat. The problem is we don't eat it often. Most of us eat, green leafy vegetables or kira or sopo once a week, twice a week, thrice a week, and that's it. Even that is such a small quantity. We need to increase that. So every meal, make sure that you add greens to your meal. You can make it in the form of chutneys. You can make it you can put it in sambar or dal. You can make a palya or sabji or poriyal from it. You can grind it, mix it with your idli and dosa, make green idlis, green dosas, or make palak rotis. You could make harabara kebabs with potatoes and spinach. You could add it in your sabjis. You could use lettuce in salad. So many ways to eat greens. The second category of vegetables are cruciferous vegetables. So cruciferous vegetables are from the family that has broccoli, cauliflower, cabbage, radish, turnip, horseradish. Many of these vegetables which we get easily locally. Everyone gets radish. You get cauliflower, cabbage on every street corner. These vegetables are very powerful anti-cancer vegetables while also being calorie dilute. So make sure you include them in your diet on a daily basis, every day. About half a cup of cruciferous vegetables and 2 cups of greens when they're raw, or if you cooked them, then they reduce to about 1 cup of greens. And these are the two most important categories of vegetables. Everything else, like your pods and your gourds and your pumpkin, ash gourd, sweet potato, sweet pumpkin, your brinjal, your bindi, tomatoes, onions, all of these are great examples of other non-starchy vegetables you could add as well. And then come the starchy vegetables. They are still healthy for you, although they are more calorie dense than the non-starchy vegetables. Right? Now, after these two, fruits followed by vegetables. Next comes the dals, the pulses, legumes, and whole grains. So let's talk about these two. The traditional Indian meal, if you're in South India, it's going to have some dal, some parapu, or some bele kadu. It's going to have sambar, rasam, or chutney, or putte, one of these four in some form or the other. Right? So what these legumes do, or what the pulses do, is they fill you up. They make you feel full. They increase that feeling of satiety, and they reduce the blood sugar spike after food. It's called the postprandial glucose spike. After eating food, it's the rate at which glucose gets dumped into your blood. So if your stomach is going to dump all the glucose into your blood at once, what's going to happen is it's going to overload your cells, and your liver will try to convert some of that into storage and store it. But if your glucose goes into the blood at a steady pace, a little bit at a time over the next 6 hours, then your blood sugar levels stay stable, your body is able to use it well. And the most important aspect is you don't get hungry for the next 6 hours. Right? Otherwise, what happens is, let's say you eat a white rice idli, 2 idlis and chutney, that's not going to keep you full for longer than a couple of hours. You're going to feel hungry very quickly. You're going to feel like eating lunch or eating a snack or eating something else. But if you eat a cup of fruits, a cup of vegetables, brown rice idlis with sambar and with the dal chutney or bele chutney, that's going to keep you full for the next 6 hours. You may only need to eat food again in the evening. So pulses, legumes, and whole grains. They are rich in fiber. They are they are not processed. They are whole. They have all their nutrients intact, especially the fiber and the phytonutrients, which are going to reduce and slow down the absorption and improve your blood's antioxidant content to keep you healthy over the next 6 hours.
So fruits, vegetables, pulses, legumes, and whole grains. So we understand legumes, pulses, fruits, vegetables. What do you mean by whole grains? Give us some examples of that.
Sure. So did you know that in nature, There is no white rice. White rice doesn't exist. It's a product that we have created. It's not a variety of rice. Rice is either brown, red, or black. Now, some varieties of rice are really light brown, but it's still not white. What makes it white is when you rub off the bran, when you scrape off the bran, which is the nutritious outer covering of the rice. When you scrape it off, you're left with the inner grain of the rice, which is white. Your regular Sona Masuri rice, which most people eat, that's a brown rice variety. Basmati rice, brown rice variety. Rajmudi rice, red rice variety. All of these varieties of rice were originally brown, red, or black, but we removed the bran, we made it white, and we've gotten used to eating this nice, soft, fluffy rice that you don't even need to chew. The problem is it's low in fiber, it's lacking in phytonutrients, it's lacking in vitamins and minerals, and may end up causing more harm than good. The alternative is to simply go for the whole grain itself. Before white rice processing started, we were eating hand pound rice, taikotalar seaweed.
Of course. Of course. I remember eating only hand pound rice for a long, long time.
Exactly. So the rice was pound to remove the husk, which is not edible. And then you get the grain, which still has the bran intact, and you just boil it. It could be raw rice, it could be parboiled rice, but rice was just rice, whole rice, until the machines came in and started polishing.
So that's what you mean by whole grain rice. I understand that. So other than the rice, is there any other whole grains that you recommend that we eat, or do you recommend that we only eat rice in
Sure,
order to lose weight?
there are so many whole grains. You have, I think, 15 varieties of millets. There's ragi, there is proso millet, barnyard millet, pearl millet or bajra, sorghum or jowar. You have kodo millet, there is foxtail millet, there's little millet, you have whole wheat, there's oats, there's rye, there's barley. So many, 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 many different whole grains. You even have amaranthus seeds, which are not technically they're not grains, they're pseudo, you use them as grains, right? So many different varieties right here locally grown in India. Rice, wheat, millets, you can choose any of them that you enjoy eating.
But
Now,
they must be whole in nature. For instance, wheat must be whole wheat, not the regular atta wheat that you get anywhere else, correct?
that's right, not the regular maida that you get, but the whole wheat atta. That's healthier to eat. Now, one thing that I'd like to mention here, when you're consuming whole grains, specifically for the purpose of weight loss and reaching your ideal weight, the less ground they are, the bigger the particle size, the healthier they are. For example, there was a study where they took two groups of people, and this is the, this might be the most popular section of this video. It's the debate of rice versus rotis. Okay, so they took two groups of people. They gave one of them rice, white rice, regular white rice, and they gave the other group whole wheat rotis. Now, we've been discussing all along about whole grains. So whole wheat rotis should have been healthier than rice, right? But what they found when they measured the blood sugar levels of these participants for the next 2 hours after they ate these foods, the people who ate the white rice, they had a blood sugar spike, which is no surprise. But the people who ate the whole wheat roti also had a blood sugar spike, and it was higher than the people with white rice. So it turned out to be even worse. Right? I mean, that's surprising. How did that happen? It happened because we ground up the wheat before making the rotis. So when you grind up a food, it becomes a lot easier for the body to digest it and absorb the nutrition from it. Like you give babies ground up food. Why? Because it's easier to eat, it's easier to digest. They can absorb more, they can absorb better, faster, and grow better. It's the same thing. Right? So when we grind a food, we need to grind it only if we want to absorb its nutrition faster and better. For example,
but that could mean that there is potentially a sudden hike in the sugar level in the blood.
Exactly. So if it's a whole grain.
So for instance, if you eat dosa, okay, which is made out of ground rice, and some pulses gets ground, and then it's soaked overnight, and it's ground, and it's even fermented and eaten, and that's not good for weight loss. In fact, that could make you gain weight, that could make you gain diseases like diabetes. Am I right?
Yes, exactly. And you know, so you spoke about
So
dosa.
how do you make idli and dosa, man? You have knocked off idli and dosa now.
Sure. So idli and dosa, interestingly, there are so many things that go into it that help to protect you against this glucose spike. Like, for example, what rice do you choose to make idli or dosa? You choose parboiled rice. You don't choose raw rice, right? And parboiled rice has a lower glycemic index than raw rice. The sugar gets absorbed a little slower than raw rice. So that's number one. Number two, when you grind it, you don't just grind the rice alone. You grind it with urad dal and with methi seeds. So pulses and legumes have the potential to slow down sugar absorption in the body. So when you eat a grain with a pulse, rice with urad dal in the dosa, that's number two. Number three is the methi seeds. Methi seeds have a special capacity to once again lower your blood sugar levels. They slow down the sugar absorption and they lower blood sugars. So that's number three. Number four is when you eat a sour food, like any grain, when you make it sour and you eat it, then it takes longer for the body to digest it and absorb it. It slows down the process. And once again, that has slowed down the sugar spike. So, for
So
example,
eating idli dosa is not bad for a diabetic.
sure, it is less bad than just grinding the rice and making a dosa with it. Right? But
Okay, so when you add it, when you mix it with urud dal, or when you mix it with the methi seeds, etc., when you make it sour and eat, it is less bad. It is still not good.
so it's still healthy if you make it with a whole grain, your idli, your dosa, your
So
rotis.
you shouldn't be using white rice to make the idli dosa, but you use a brown rice to make the idli dosa.
Exactly.
Huh.
And whenever possible,
Or you could use it with millets, for instance.
sure, absolutely. Ragi, jowar, bajra, whole wheat, any of them. But ideally, if your goal is to accelerate weight loss, then choose intact whole grains like whole rice and whole millets, or broken grains like broken wheat or broken rice, but not so much grain flours. That's a secret to boosting weight loss through a healthier diet.
Oh, so if you grind them, then potentially you will not be able to lose as much weight as eating them as whole, or uh, made it into a rava-like structure.
Exactly. Simply because it takes the body longer to digest bigger particles. And no matter how much you chew, it's not going to get that much ground up in the mouth as it would in a mixing. So the bigger the particles are, slower it gets digested, lesser gets absorbed, and the less body weight you're able to achieve.
Interesting. So you talked about fruits, vegetables of three different types. You talked about leafy vegetable, you talked about cruciferous non-leafy vegetable, then you talked about starchy vegetables or any other types of vegetable, that is. And then you talked about pulses and grains, then you talked about legumes also. So let's talk about the next one. Is there anything else other than this? You have given us secrets of how to cook all of these, or even eat it fresh so that we can lose weight. Anything else is a secret that you've got to help us lose weight quickly?
Sure. So we spoke about nuts and seeds. We spoke about peanuts and peanut butter not causing weight gain. And that's important. Nuts and seeds are an important aspect of daily nutrition. When you remove oil from your cooking, when you cook without oil, and you add nuts and seeds to your diet, you'll be able to boost nutrient absorption, which is important to keep you healthy. So at the beginning of this talk, we spoke about not just losing weight, but also gaining health at the same time. And that's important. Why do you want to lose weight? Because you want to get healthier. And you get healthier by choosing healthier foods. So nuts and seeds, they have a property of being able to boost the absorption of phytonutrients because of their fat content. So the same salad, the same sambar, the same vegetable dish that you eat, if you add a few nuts on top, you'll be able to absorb a lot more nutrition from it than you would otherwise.
Is there a limit as to how much of seeds or nuts one should have every day?
So I'll put it this way, there is a limit as to how much benefit you can get from nuts and seeds. And that tops off at about a quarter cup a day. So quarter
How
cup,
many grams?
that's about 30 grams of nuts and seeds
Well,
in
it's
a
just handful. 30 grams is just handful.
Yes, one handful of nuts and seeds. And the ideal way to consume nuts and seeds is not separately, just by themselves, but topped on top of your dishes. So a cashew nut in on top of bisibele bath, or some almonds on a paisam, or some peanuts in your puliyodre, or some sunflower seeds on your salad. That's the best way to consume nuts.
Let's talk about the sweets, the paisams and the kesari bats and the things like that. So you finish your meal with a lovely dish of dessert, which is usually made of sugar or sometimes jaggery. So can we continue to consume it if we want to lose weight and gain health?
So that's the best part. You can eat pretty much anything you want as long as you use the right ingredients. So the problem with sugar and jaggery is that they are fiber free. You squeeze the juice out of the sugar cane, you boil it down to get jaggery. So there itself, it's free from fibers. You eat jaggery, your sugar levels are going to spike up. And then you remove the remaining nutrition from jaggery and you're left with sugar, which is definitely going to spike up your blood sugar levels. So what are the healthier sweeteners? We recommend two sweeteners. One is date syrup, homemade date syrup, which is super easy to make. You just get your regular dates, remove the seeds, seedless dates, soak it in water overnight, grind it in your mixie in the morning, and that's date syrup. That's all. It's as simple as that. You
And you
can
don't filter it.
you don't filter it. This is whole, right? And you can sweeten your paisam, your kheer, or any sweets using date syrup. So if you're trying to do this at home, the biggest trick to using it is the quantity of date syrup should be a lot more than the quantity of sugar or jaggery that you use. So it's not just a few spoons of it, but replace like 30 to 40% of your dish as date syrup and the remaining as your dal or rice, and your paisam will taste fantastic.
So
Okay.
some experimentation may be required for those of us who are listening in this to you right now through Zoom and through YouTube. It's important that you experiment with small quantity at first at home, because the dates, the consistence and the sweetness of dates is significantly different from sugar or jaggery. So what Dr. Achyutaneshwar is saying, that I understand, is no sugar, no jaggery. If you want to lose weight, if you want to gain health, no sugar, no jaggery. Instead, use dates. Dates converted into syrup by just soaking the dates overnight and grinding it the next morning without filtering, without boiling it, and storing it and using that as a sugar substitute for whatever sweet that you want to make in your meal. So that's great. You mentioned about the second way or the second substitute for sugar, and what is it?
So the second one is blackstrap molasses. So this is the liquid that's left behind after sugar is removed from jaggery. This is all the nutrition of jaggery minus the sugar. So that makes it extremely healthy. Your sugar levels, blood sugar levels don't spike up when you use molasses. So if you want a sweetener that is zero fiber but still healthy, then molasses is the way to go. If you don't want either of
Is there
these,
an Indian name for this molasses? Is there a Tamil name for it?
I'm not sure, but one of the reasons why most people are not familiar with it is that every sugar factory is also a distillery. Molasses is the raw material for making rum. So when you make sugar, the molasses doesn't even see its way out of the factory. It's then and there, it's taken, fermented, converted to rum, and you get rum and sugar in the market.
Okay. In Tamil, I believe it is called as Vellapag, Sakkare Vellapag. So it's basically a waste material that is thrown away before sugar is made. So that becomes the a beautiful source for vitamins and minerals and extremely good substitute for sugar, according to you. Is that right?
Absolutely.
All right, wonderful. So you have covered a whole gamut of techniques on how to cook so that we can lose weight. Is there anything that I have not asked you that I would like to answer before I start jumping into reading out questions from our audience?
Sure. So the one thing I'd like to share is that diets don't work. Everyone knows this. If you go on a diet, you will lose weight, you'll gain benefits, you'll feel better, you'll look better. But eventually, you're going to go off the diet. You're going to go back to your regular food, and all of your health issues may start coming back. I've lost count of the number of patients who told me I lost 5 kgs on a diet and then I gained 10 kgs after the diet. So it doesn't work. Instead, what works is a permanent lifestyle change. In this session, you've learned a lot about healthy foods. You've learned a lot about what are healthy foods, what are unhealthy foods, and how do you cook healthier foods at home. When you make those a part of your lifestyle, you start every meal with fruits, eat a full plate of vegetables, choose whole grains, eat plenty of dals and legumes at every meal, you'll reach your ideal weight quicker. And the best part is you'll stay there. You'll be able to eat more and weigh less because you've learned calorie density. So you'll be satiated. You'll never need to go on a diet and you can live out your optimal health with an optimal, healthy lifespan. I hope this session was useful to all of you. I'm looking forward to your questions.
Lovely, wonderful. We have Brinda, Naveen, we have Shankari, Naresh. Anyone would like to ask any questions on Zoom, just please click the hand raise button. I will be happy to unmute you. You can ask the question directly to Dr. Chatanishwar. We have quite a few people watching this program live on YouTube. And if you would like to ask a question over YouTube, please feel free to put a comment in the YouTube chat box. I'll be happy to read out those questions. Right now, I don't see any questions for you except a suggestion by PMRT in YouTube, who says that one Tamil session about plant-based diet for diabetes and a general advice would be good. So perhaps we should consider doing a Tamil session very soon so that we can invite the Tamil speaking public who would love to listen to this, and perhaps one session in Hindi. I don't know whether you can speak Hindi as fluently as you speak in English, but I definitely don't speak Hindi. But perhaps we could have someone like Professor Shankari Naresh or Naresh himself, Professor Naresh himself, asking you questions in Hindi. You could perhaps try and answer that in Hindi.
Absolutely. I'm sure it would be quite entertaining to a lot of people to hear me speak in my broken Hindi. I'm looking
Lovely.
forward.
So thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining this wonderful session on how to cook weight loss diet at home. And this video is live on YouTube, and this will be there in my channel, Krish Murli Ishwar. So you can go ahead and watch this video in the YouTube channel anytime you like, at whenever you want, at your convenience. And we are going to have Dr. Chatanishwar back again very soon. Next time, what I would like to ask is about the dangers of milk and milk-based products. So he has put a bomb on us today, saying that milk-based products is one reason for weight loss, perhaps various other lifestyle diseases. And this is going completely against the popular belief, especially in a country like India, which is one of the largest milk and milk-based products consumers in the world. And we're going to have him come back and give us some enlightening experiences and insights on why we must avoid eating or drinking milk or eating milk-based products. So I hope, Achyutan, you will be able to come back and join us soon on another live show very soon on the ill effects of milk.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for the session and thank you all so much for joining. I hope it was useful. I look forward to our next session on the ill effects of consuming milk.
Lovely. Thank you very much for joining. Good luck. Be blessed by the divine. May the Almighty force and our Guru shower you all with good health, long life, enough wealth, peace, prosperity.